The House of the Dragon Season 1 is now over, and oh god did it completely blow people's expectations out of the way, prove many theories wrong, and prove the current narrative wrong with another TV show. Let's talk about it. Season 1 is this very high fantasy, unlike Game of Thrones, which was more of a social political fantasy. This is a social political fantasy with a slightly high fantasy vibe. There's dragons and magic, and everything's kind of it's a slightly different world as it takes place long before the events of Game of Thrones. The writing has been brilliant, the characterization has been brilliant, the acting has been brilliant. Yes, it's had its weaker moments. Definitely in the middle of the series, it kind of pulled it all together, and it just worked. Yes, there are some scenes which are very reminiscent of Shrek. I'm very aware of that meme, and I'm pretty sure that was done on purpose because no creative team can be that blind. This show, which is made on a fraction of the budget of The Rings of Power, not only has better looking special effects, better looking set pieces, better looking armour, weapons, and overall a much stronger aesthetic, this show also proves the point that the narrative that people hate The Rings of Power because it has black cast is ridiculous. Why I disagree with race swapping characters, I will say the cast of The House of the Dragon really do it well because the acting is good, because the narrative isn't really being pushed. It works, and you can look past it. That's the thing with this series. I went in there with some trepidation just because after season 8 of Game of Thrones, where it didn't just edge near the cliff, it jumped off, and everything happened really fast. I do feel like the last season needed like 3-4 more episodes to kind of just fix the pacing issues and fix some of the story structure to explain itself a bit more. Overall, this is a superior show to that season. It kind of reminds me of the peak of Game of Thrones in the sense of its style, its writing, and strong narrative. Actors are definitely showing what they can do. Matt Smith is a real treat in this, and I didn't gel with him in the first 2 episodes. And I know that's a weird statement. I know I'm going to get comments for it, but I just didn't. And then once I watched episode 3, I was like, ooh, okay, I get it now. I think with Matt Smith, in my brain, I always think of him as the Doctor. And that will always be where I think of that man as an actor. And he's really shining and becoming a very strong actor in his own right. The sets overall feel huge and lived in and old and roomy. And when the CGI kicks in, it doesn't look like something from a video game, which is refreshing. The dragons look very textured and the world overall has a glorious look. The world building is handled really well and the pacing is really good, which is refreshing in modern TV. I do wish some of the actors would shut up on social media, the same with the creatives behind it. Sometimes it's better to be quiet and let people we don't need your opinions, we just want to see you perform. And I think that's something a lot of modern actors and young actors need to learn. You aren't an activist, you are here to entertain us. That's it. Go home. I'm going to get in trouble for that. Overall, this has been a good firm 8 out of 10 for me. Yes, it's definitely had its weaker moments, and definitely, I think episode 6 didn't quite gel with me. I will say that. I don't think it was the best episode, but the characterization and it kept the story moving. It was a filler episode more than anything, I'm sure of it. They're doing this on a much smaller budget than Rings of Power. They're doing this in a completely different way, yet this show proves that the narrative that Amazon pushed, and just because you have $1 billion budget doesn't mean you can make good television. And this is prime example of that. A strong show, great acting, great performances from everyone, and overall just a firm favourite of mine, and kind of takes me back to the heyday of Game of Thrones with that strong writing and strong characterization that we do miss in television shows now. Everything just kind of happens boom, boom, boom. But there's a build-up, there's a moment, there's a payoff. It doesn't just say, we're getting on a boat and we're going here. One episode later, they've travelled the length of the Atlantic Ocean and show up with their miscounted boats, and then run and do nothing. Nothing feels superfluous, which is a refreshing take within television, and overall just good. I do have some nitpicks, and I will say this. Some of the armour looks a little 3D printed. There is no way around that. It's just the nature of television. But they've gone to an effort to at least make it fit the people. The armour looks good, the weaponry has weight to it and looks heavy, and doesn't seem to magically disappear and reappear between shots. That's a whole long story. The costumes look rich and full and really do paint the character, because I think costuming is important with characterisation, because clothes do maketh the man. And this proves that in that sense. The costumes very much fit the characters they're playing. The style fits their personalities. The coach thing looks strange, and I know that's a really weird nitpick to talk about, but the coach in this, there's this coach in the show that looks really out of place and really odd. So that's a thing. It looks a bit too new and shiny, and looks kind of stylistically out of place in a pseudo-medieval Renaissance world. I don't know where that came from, but you know what, it's a nitpick at this point. But the writing, what stands out with this show is the writing, and that's such a refreshing thing to see. Good, strong characters, good, strong writing, good, strong narrative, good, strong build-up. And without giving too much away, the last episode just pulls you straight in, and you kind of get to the end of it and think, I want more. The irony is this is based on one of George R. Martin's weaker novels. I will say this, fleshing that novel out has helped drastically. They've definitely added some stuff with George R. Martin behind the camera. The fact that he's involved in this has helped a lot, I think. Although I will say, I wish he would shut up on social media sometimes as well, but that's a whole different... But that's true of everyone. Just entertain us. And write your goddamn book. Can we get the end of the Game of Thrones, please? Before you're dead. This whole series has completely blown me away, in the sense that I was not expecting it to be good. I was expecting it to be generic. I was expecting it to be weak. I was expecting that last season of Game of Thrones repeated. This blows that out of the water. It actually, for me, I'm preferring this first season of House of Dragons to the first season of Game of Thrones. It just feels so much stronger, but maybe because they know what they're doing this time around rather than just seeing what fits. And it feels more consistent. I watched loads of videos on this, and I watched for everyone's reviews, and we all tend to come to the same conclusion. And I hate to compare it, but you have to, because you've got two big fantasy properties on screen at the same time, The House of the Dragon and The Rings of Power. The Rings of Power fails at storytelling, it fails at editing, pacing, story structure, characterization, and acting. Yet we're to blame for the studio's screw-up. I love that. The fan blaming is just off the charts. But the characters in The House of the Dragon, everything just fits, and it just feels so well written. And I just love those moments with the characters. Nothing drags on, nothing just happens out of nowhere. Nothing feels cheap, nothing feels rushed. That's the big difference here. And yes, is it a perfect series? No. And like I said, I would give it an 8 out of 10, which is actually a very high score for me. I can't wait for season 2, and I wonder how they're going to carry this on, and I wonder what they're going to do for season 2. I think that would be an interesting one overall. So tell me what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and share this video, please, because it really does help. And hello to all the new people here. Are you guys enjoying The House of the Dragon? What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments, and I will talk to you guys later.